Oh, and down he goes! Right hand, left hand, and I don't think he's going to get up. I think it's all over. I think it's over. Is he going to get up? Can he get up? Can he get up? He does. Oh my goodness! Somehow Fury has managed to get up.
If you haven't already, please also subscribe to us on Apple, Spreaker and Spotify. Just type in Brawl Boxing and you'll find us there. Thank you.
Big thanks to Wow Hydrate, who've sponsored the podcast. They provided me and the lads with some of their protein and vitamin waters, along with the electrolyte drinks, which are the best on the market. Thanks for your continued support. We really appreciate it.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to the Brawl Boxing podcast. I'm Kieran McCourt, and I'm joined by co-hosts Colin McGuigan and Ryan McLaughlin.
So, guys, we're delighted to have this next guest on. I've tortured him for weeks. So please welcome future Hall of Fame coach and current Anthony Joshua, Richard Poor, Fraser Clark, and Clare Malloy coach, Angel Fernández. Angel, how are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. Just let me correct you with the fact of like a future Hall of Fame. Not that yet, but that's the goal. That's the goal.
Angel, I could have swore you were Irish when you come on this call.
No, 7:30, yeah.
I love that, yeah.
Angel, we're obviously delighted to have you on the show. I have been pestering you for ages. With this show, I know you're an avid listener and you've listened to every podcast now, you told me, in the past month. So you know how it goes. We want to bring it right back to the start. So tell us a bit about you growing up. You grew up in Spain.
Yeah.
What was that like for you?
Obviously, kind of like, thank you guys just to give me the opportunity, you know, just like to talk. I think it's kind of like, I'm a person that I like to keep things quiet, just to stay behind the cameras. And I think kind of like, it gets to a moment where I think a lot of people, you know, maybe they need to know about my background, which I have spoken in previous interviews, just like a few things. But for those that kind of like, that said kind of like that to Angel, the success came that early. Let me talk a bit about my background. I came from Spain, you know, I left my mom and dad, I think 18. And I don't want anyone to kind of like feel sorry for me, you know, but I came from a house where my dad was an alcoholic. My dad was already in my house with no work. I think it was like 26, 27 years of age. My mom became the man in the house. I think it was my mom, to see my mom, how hard she has to work to bring the family up, to bring myself, to kind of like at the same time look after my dad. And I think I take kind of like the hard work, the dedication, the consistency, the discipline from her. So obviously at 18, I left my mom and dad houses for a better future, you know, just that, because I was sitting in my town and I was thinking, in this place, I'm not going to be having, you know, the life that I always one dream, you know, just to have these things, to live a better life. You know, I went to the Canary Islands. I was just asking people, you know, knocking on people's door, asking for work. I work in every kind of job you could ever think of: carpentry, building work, doing the roads. I work in the nighttime doing cocktails. Then I came into this country, and I done again. I was like picking and packing in a warehouse, you know, like golf clubs, working agency work while I was doing my amateur career. I work as a gardener, just taking the compost and things like that, delivering to people's houses while I was still doing amateur. Then I kind of like, I tried, because I always was involved in sports. I always was in Spain. I was like doing kickboxing. I was doing boxing. When I came here, I wanted to continue that road of being a boxer. And my dream was always being a professional boxer. That was always my dream. And that's what kind of like I had in my mind at the time of like, okay, keep working, you know, but I wanted to find a way of become a professional boxer. So as an amateur boxer, and I go into work which was doing event work. So I could be working from 1 a.m. to 7 a.m. in the morning. I could start working at 3 a.m. in the morning till 2 o'clock. I didn't know every day the times that I was going to work, because the company I was working for, they were good at kind of like last minute jobs. So if the following day they needed someone, okay, would have to go and do that job. So sometimes was okay, 8 to 4, but that was not always the case. And this is kind of like just a quick brief of like my early life. I couldn't do amateur boxing because I was no consistency with the training. I couldn't go to the gym because of the times I was working. So I got into kind of like a depression, not into drinking or anything like that, but I didn't kind of like got to a point where I just didn't have any desire to do anything. I was in my house. I lived off benefits for a little while, you know, and I think I just ran my mom and I just cried and I said, I think I just need to go back to Spain and just like be with my parents, you know. And I think it was like the people around me, like my girlfriend, that said, listen, you've always been involved in fitness. You always were a fit guy. You know, you always like to be kind of like doing something. Why don't you do personal training course? And I started doing that. I done a lot of free work, you know, like doing what I could of doing a few hours of working here through the agency, up there, going to go with some PT just to learn, you know, how she was doing boot camps, etc., for free and paid. And luckily, I found my friend back again, who was Danny Connor, which he was the one that opened me the doors to professional boxing, because he was a professional boxer. And I said, listen, if you need anybody in your gym, just like to do circuits or anything, please, you know, I'm here. And he said, you know what, let me speak to the coach. So he spoke to the coach. I went there to see the coach. He said, yes, no problem. I started doing kind of like the circuit training, the typical kind of like, okay, oh, just go and see Andrew, just like do that. But my goal there was I wanted to do more. I wanted to get into coaching, you know, because boxing gave me so much. And I know it didn't give me so much in terms of the amateur, but from a spiritual point of view, it was giving me like something that, you know, when like you kind of like not being bullied, but you kind of like, it was, I don't know how to explain, but it was giving me something that I was feel proud about, you know, just like, yes, and just get into fighting and just like release that into the ring in the fight. And getting back into that, into the gym, into start training fighters, you know, like, even if it was like giving water or anything, I wanted to be doing that. I said, I wanted to be a coach. Please, like, will you help me? And he said, listen, my right hand just left. Do you want to beat my right hand? And I was like, yes, of course. And that's what people don't understand, is like, they just think that I just come out of the bloom and hello, Anthony Joshua just rang me. And it's not the case. I've been doing 2 hours every day. So wake up at working at 6 a.m. in the morning till 9, leaving at 9 o'clock, my PT place, to go to London, unpaid, been there, train fighters, come back, train my clients. And I've done this for a long time. After that, I went to West Ham Boxing Gym, exactly the same. But I got to a point that I was thinking, I need to start doing this for myself. I need to start kind of like coaching people. That's when I kind of like go in touch with Jorge Rubio, go in touch with Salas. Jorge was the one that kind of like opened me the doors. He told me a lot of things, you know, the Cubans, how like the Cuban style. Yes. And then we go back again down to history, that again, a lot of people relate my philosophy or my way of teaching to Cuban style. My teaching is not Cuban style. Yes, I learned from a Cuban, but it took me a long time to start understanding, to start reading, to start kind of like discovering other coaches, other kind of like boxing schools, the Mexican, the American school, the Soviet school. What did they do that kind of like we don't do? What did they do that we don't do? And I start kind of like understanding and slowly start bringing my own philosophy. I quite like the way these guys move the feet. Cool. Okay. They the best at this. I pick this to me. They good with this, with the fundamentals, with the, okay, I pick this. And that's how slowly, you know, I start to kind of like training people. And I was training this light heavy Marcus Williams on my time, and call it lucky, call it, I don't know, where like God. Isaac Chandler just lost the fight against Okoli, came to the gym, and I think we did a good work against Watkins. And I think the changes in Isaac was what took me to Joshua, because Joshua said to me, like, I've been watching you for a long time. So I'm not coming out of the blue into kind of like this boxing. My mom always told me, and I said this earlier, just like the hard work. And if people thinks like, oh, Angel is not the man for the work, and listen, I'm not here based on people's opinions, because if I would listen to people's opinions, I wouldn't be what I am today. And another thing is as well, like, I am my own person. I have my own mentality. I'm very clear in what I want. And the people that are hating, which is a lot, and I completely understand, because who is Angel? Where is Angel come from? How is Angel training and is going to become the main trainer for Anthony Joshua? But let me tell you something, these people will become fans soon. And again, they will become haters back again, because life is a circle, yeah? Sometimes we win and sometimes we lose. But I don't sleep on victories, and I don't either sleep on losses. I remain the same, because the victory and the defeat always teach me something. How can we get better? I ask this myself every single day. I'm a hard worker, and you could think, oh, he's with now Joshua, he's with Richard Riakpo, he's training Fraser, he's training Kieran Malloy. I could easily go, they're very good fighters. Yes, I'm lucky to have these fighters, but I'm not just sitting back and just think, cool. No, this makes me work even harder than I ever done before. When people talk, oh, Enyo Fernández, let me describe it to you. Anthony Joshua is making me a better coach. How is not making him a better coach? How Kieran is not making me a better coach? How Richard is not making me a better coach? How Fraser is not making me a better coach? Each person teaches me something different. I have to understand the personalities. I have to understand what can I get the best out of this guy on a day-to-day basis. They have things ingrained within themselves that I don't know. Even the great Emmanuel Stewart, 41 world champions, he even learned from Julio Cesar Chavez. Even Chocolatito, when he was training with Alexis Arguello, you know, he kept 50% of the training throughout every single trainer that has been after Arguello. Even Marcos, oh God, what's the coach of Chocolatito? Marcos, oh God, I forgot his surname. But he even said, I look back at the previous trainers, what they were doing, and we kept that 50% that came from the first trainer. And that's what I'm doing with Joshua. I'm not going to change him. I'm not going to change him. I'm going to bring him back to who he once was. And I know, like, I'm not a person that kind of like talk and I'm like, I'm confident. Yes, I'm confident. And I see Anthony Joshua is going to win. He's going to win this fight. He's definitely going to win, because that's what I bring to my guys, a winning mentality.
Yeah, Angel, I think a lot of people will be shocked as well hearing your story, because most people, when you sort of did arrive on the scene, it was a case of, you know, when the same thing happened with Ben Davison and stuff, and when you attach yourself to these mega superstars out of nowhere, people just think, oh, he skipped the queue or whatever. But hearing your story, you obviously didn't. You put the graft in. I was just thinking there was a point you said. So growing up, your dream was always to be a professional boxer. Do you remember the moment where you started to fall in love with coaching, where you thought, you know what, this is what I really love doing, actually?
Even kind of like, you know, when I was doing amateur, even some of the amateurs in my gym, there was, how you done this and how you done that. I was already then watching Roy Jones because he is my all-time furry fighter. So I used to watch Roy Jones. I used to kind of like, I always had that kind of like passion since then of like coaching people. And now that I'm doing it, I'm loving it even more. It's even more because it's new things that you have to learn. It kind of like the philosophies of each different trainer, you know, it's crazy how people says like or relates like good coaches to achievements. That's not always the case. Simeone never won the Champions League as a player and never won the Champions League as a coach. Is he a bad coach? Simeone is a hell of a coach. Guardiola only won the Champions League with Barcelona. He never won it with Bayern Munich and he still hasn't won it with Manchester City. So how can you say that? Klopp never won it before, he won it with Liverpool. Are they good coaches? Yes or no? Yes, they are. And then when you go to kind of like Mexico and you ask any Mexican fighter, any Mexican coach, on paper, Nacho Beristain is the best with 31 world champions. But the true reality, and if you ask a true Mexican, who is the best coach that you have ever seen, everybody will tell you that it's Jesus Cholai Guerrero, that he trained 3 world champions. 3. But no one knows who he is. But I ask people, when I went and traveled to America, and I speak to a lot of coaches, and I speak to quite a few fighters, you know, in that, and they'll say the same thing. That man was very, very, very intelligent. And I understand the doubts, and I completely get the doubts of the people like in Joshua giving me, let's say, like the driver's seat. But that also doesn't mean that Roma Kraken or Jody Clayton are bad trainers. They're not bad trainers. If they're not here for whatever reasons, you know, that happen, you know, but if we win, when we win, is them guys, they should be proud of the work they have done as well, because it will be for everybody, not just for me. This is not for me. This is Anthony Joshua. It's not me. This is not like an angel for no. I always said, I am saying it, and I will say it. The fighter makes the coach, not the opposite. Because you have to have a good fighter to be a good coach. Yes, a good coach improves a few things, and he'll guide you with this, he'll guide you with that, he knows how to take you, but at the end of the day, you have to have a good fighter with you to make you get your name, you know, up there.
Angel, honestly, I think you've inspired me to go out and fight Anthony Joshua here. Listening to this, no joke, I fancy a spar. But in all seriousness, Angel, right? I wanted to ask you this. You've obviously got Richard, you've got Kieran, you've got Fraser, and you've got Anthony. They're all different stages of their career.
Yeah.
How hard is that for you to keep them all on the one road? Is it tough because everyone's at a different kind of level?
It is possible because, you know, everyone has got their own time. You know, I don't train them in kind of like all together, you know, maybe when one is finishing, the other one is coming in, you know, each individual has their own planning, you know, this is what I'm expecting for you. This is what we working, you know, in this camp. When that fight happens, everything we have done in the past is gone. We have to work based from the last performance. Okay, things to work on, you know, what worked well, what didn't work well. And that's what it gives me like the next steps to, you know, each person has got their own kind of like abilities. Each person has got their own strengths, you know, completely different styles. And it's my job to look, you know, fighters, to know history of boxing and go and watch this person. From this person, you're picking this. I always give them videos to watch, you know, to Kieran, to Richard, to Fraser, to AJ, you know, I always give them videos, you know, watch this guy, look how he works on this, look how he does that. It's not picking the style. I believe styles limit the fighters. big things that you go, could you add these to your arsenal? You know, do they work? Good. Does it not work? Okay, let's take it out. We try something else, because that is coaching. That is a process. And I'm gonna fail many times in my life, but we are humans, and this is part of life. If I would be perfect, I would be, I don't know, or a multimillionaire, or someone that you already had. If it would be that easy, would we already have 60 world champions under my belt? But things are not easy. You have to work for them.
Yeah, you touched on it there as well. You said about obviously coming through, like you touched on a lot of adversity that you faced, like you went into depression and that. And for something like that, to come through that, you can pass that on to your fighters, because you know what boxing's like. It's a very lonely sport. And when you do lose, the sort of the lows are the highest highs, but they're the lowest lows. And people don't actually see what you've been through as well, coming through and then getting to the level that you're at now. Is that something that you pass on to them and sort of comfort them in?
Of course, you know, I pass this, but at the end of the day, I am who I am, and they are who they are. I need to understand, like, why you're doing what you're doing. And if I have to bring this in the fight, like I have done with Richard, you know, you got to understand and know the purpose of each fight. Why were you doing what you're doing? What are you doing it for? So when you understand that, you start to understand, train the person before you train the fighter. And I've got a winning mentality. Listen, nothing was given to me, nothing, because I seen when I was a youngster, other people already had PlayStations, Nintendo, you know, I had nothing. And because my mom couldn't afford that. He couldn't afford that. So I'm doing this, and I believe, you know, that I'm going to create a legacy, but I'm not going to create a legacy from my own ego. I'm going to create a legacy to show my mom, this is your son, this is your product. This is what I have seen in my house day to day, because at the end of the day, you're a product of your environment. And this is what I want to pass on to future generations, you know, to other coaches to see me and it's like, oh, because of Angel. And I will go, my way is not the best way. There is no best way. In boxing, there is no best style. There is no best way or best fighter. There's not the perfect fighter. Is, you know, each style might be wrong for that person. That style might be wrong for that person. So we're going to go through defeats because it's completely inevitable. Yeah, going through the defeats, but it's how that defeat kind of like how you represent yourself in that ring. And when I was an amateur, my mentality to go there and say, like, listen, if that man is going to beat me tonight, it's going to be the best performance of his life, because I will leave everything on the line. And that is definitely something that I try, you know, instill in my fighters.
Yeah, Angel, you touched on it. You touched on it there about the three managers of Klopp, Simeone, Pep Guardiola. Like, they're three brilliant coaches, but they've got like a brilliant man management style as well. Is there an element of that in boxing that you as a coach have to do as well? Because we don't really see that. We just see the tactics that you give them. We hear you in the corner during the fight speaking to them, but we don't see the man management style that you might have to play in the background.
Yeah, you have to create character. You have to create character. It's not all about, let's say, a psychologist or big analysis or nutritionist or I'm just going crazy. It's just like when you watch a fight, you got to understand what's happening there. As a coach, you got to understand what's the 70, what's the 80% that happens on that fight. Is it technical? Is it physical? Is it nutritional? Is it, you know, is it tactical? Is it mental? That's for me is the mental. And yes, I do have all the people around him here in Loughborough, you know, like we got nutritionists, but we all work as one. It's not completely individual thing. We all work as one. But yes, I do train the character. And how do you train character to a person? To kind of like train them in the storm. So that's down to the public to maybe pick up what he wants. Obviously, I'm not going to give my tactics, my way of coaching, but you got to train them. And you got to train them sometimes like being in adversity. You know, you're not going to get the character out of a person in calm. Tell them how good you are. Tell them, oh, that was beautiful. That was, such a solid job. You done today well in the sparring. I'm not the kind of person, because I'm not the kind of person with myself. So I always ask myself the question, how can I get better? And you could maybe say and think like, oh, but that man would never be happy. That's the way I am happy, by self-improvement. And that's what I'm trying to get to my fighters. On the first fight with Richard, he can tell you, I just straight away just ran out of the ring to the changing room. When he came in, I said what I needed to say, and same thing on the last fight. But yes, you do have to work the mindset, because as the great Cass, the matter said, is 90% is mental in this game.
Tell me this, Angel. You obviously talked a lot about your family there as well. What's it like for them now? It must be quite surreal, because they seen the struggles that you went through. You talked about ringing your mum at one point, crying, saying I need to go home, and now you're head coach of probably the biggest fighter in the world, getting into one of the biggest fights in the world. You've got the blue tick on Instagram. Everything's happening for you.
I'm not even. Look how much I care. I don't even have Twitter. I don't have Facebook and Instagram. I truly hardly use it. You know, my focus is on something else. Obviously, I don't think my mom and dad, they truly, they kind of know, because obviously the biggest newspapers in Spain, they're all like obviously talking about me. I got huge base, like fan base in Spain, they support me, especially my friends. But I don't live off all the fans, what they have to say, good or bad. I know my people, and I am true to them. As long as I made them feel proud, that's all that matters to me in my life, And to me, to win this fight would mean, I don't think I have words in my mind that could describe that. But to go back, I haven't seen them because of the current situation with COVID, and I was not able to go and see my mum. Probably I haven't seen them for 2.5 years, 3 years. And to be able to go back and just like say, listen, mum, this is what I done. When the fight happens, and when we get a win and go back to my parents, and there you go. This is for you, and be able to pay back all the work, all the kind of like the sacrifices they have done to keep me happy. It'll make me the happiest man on earth.
You seen the Zone actually doing a card in Barcelona last week, and obviously Spanish boxing over here in the UK, we sort of don't really get to see it as much. How big is that, do you think, for the likes of the Spanish fighters coming through? And is that something you're obviously keeping an eye on because it's your homeland?
Yeah, I do kind of like keep an eye on the Spanish boxing, but I'm not really kind of like watch current boxing match. I always kind of like go back in history. I try to understand why that guy was a champion. What did he do? Who his trainer was? Who that trainer learned from? That's kind of like how I normally spend my time on. But boxing in Spain, unfortunately, it's not big. It's not enough clubs as there is in this country. But hopefully, I think they are kind of like, they're doing things well, with Eddie, with the son. I think kind of like it's slowly growing. They're giving more opportunities to them, and I hope in years to come, there's more fighters start to come, and they get to see how beautiful this sport is, how many opportunities the sport of boxing can give to people.
Angel, I need to address the elephant in the room here, right? So talk to us about the time when AJ reached out to you to be its coach. How did it come about? Did you have any sort of inkling that it would happen? Or
when I first met him, or when?
No, when he asked you to be his coach this time.
It kind of like, just like, if I'm honest with you, it just happened, obviously, not randomly, but he's been training with me, in Loughborough. Obviously, a lot of people that have been mentioning several names. he has seen them all, you know, and he just came to me and I said, I need you to be my first coach. And I have to take it. I have to take the ball through the horns, and I'm not going to go and go to him and go, oh, this is too much of a bigger challenge, which it is. Yes, it's a big challenge, but I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it, and I'm working hard for it. And he sees that on a day-to-day basis, you know. He has full belief in me, and I got full belief in him. And sometimes, again, that's where I was coming back to the different sort of way of coaching. Someone are more technical than others are more tactical than others have got better strategy. But I think we have a bond that nobody maybe will have that with him. And that's a very important thing, because I will be able, when I have that bond with someone, which I have with all my fighters, I will take the best out of them. I would definitely take the best out of them. And he is not going to be no difference.
Yeah, like when you watch, obviously we're from the outside looking in, but like even when you see him on social media, he seems a lot happier. It seems like, and they say this old saying goes, a happy fighter's a dangerous fighter. Is that something that you pass, or obviously all your fighters? Like we've met Kieran Malloy, and that he's a big up and coming prospect in Ireland as well. But is that happiness around in the gym as well so important?
It's very important, because, you know, they get to see kind of like, hey, this guy done it, so he passes like knowledge on to Kieran. You know, you got Richard, which is, you know, maybe 2 fights away to become world champion. You got Fraser, captain of Team GB, you know, Olympic bronze medal. To have that in the gym and just like to keep like, there is no egos. And that's what I preach every day in here. There is no, you're not better than that. In the gym, we all equal. Regardless of your previous achievement or of your current achievements, everyone is here to get better. And that's something that I remind them every day. We're here to get better. You know, Richard passed things on to Kieran. Kieran passed things on to Fraser. Fraser on to AJ. AJ on to Kieran. That's how it is, because there is things that they pass within the fighters that the coaches, we don't know. So I can't lie and tell the public I know everything. I don't know nothing, because the more I research, the more I know in my head that the kind of like the amount of things that I still need to learn. So this weekend I just kind of like went through the whole series of Simeone, and I got to understand the whole things of how Tony Nadal, he trained Rafa Nadal, and it's absolutely just incredible. The method they use, they call it the Socrates method. And Federer, if you look on paper, who's better, Federer or Nadal? You know, Federer had the better drive, better movement. You watch him, he just walks. But the way they train Nadal was always in adversity. It was always giving like dodgy balls. He always kind of like, the terrain wasn't great. When Nadal said, "Oh, I'm Spanish champion at this age," so the coach came to him and he went, "Okay, but look, I got this list that this guy was Spanish champion at your age, and this one, and this one, and this one." So always kind of like bringing him back, and never ever praising Rafa. Call it good or bad. Did the results work? Yes. And I'm coming back down to AJ. In one way, like AJ knows there is no better coach in this world, and I'm gonna say this with a big mouth. There is no coach in this world that knows better how to be Usyk than Anthony Joshua. That man has been 12 rounds with him. So I could go from the outside, I could have all the opinions in the world, and that person, and them hundreds of fans. But there is no better person than the person that went through that. Mm-hmm. You know? And what I'm trying to do with Josh is for now, you know, it's in a good place mentally, you know. And I'm not just man, definitely not just man, because he's doing what I'm telling him to do. Yeah. And just going back to Nadal and to Federer, sorry, just to keep going back and forward, but I'll tell you this story, okay? Nadal, when he signed the multi-contract deal with Nike, 2 days before, was eating 2 big pizzas. So the general manager of the big guy of Nike watching that, I'm like thinking, Jesus, 2 big pizzas. The following day, went and played golf. And then he had a day rest in between, and then he went and played the worst match ever. He lost 6-3 and 6-0. So the manager went to Rafa Nadal's manager and I said, the coach, how is he eating pizza? He's very poor. You need a nutritionist. You need this guy. You need that. You need this. He's so unprofessional. He went to the Madrid. He lost in Madrid. So, no, clearly you have to remove all this away from him. Few months later, the year hasn't ended yet. Rafa Nadal is number 2 in the world, the youngest maybe player in winning Roland Garros. Now, all of a sudden, please keep eating the 2 pizzas because it kind of like you need it because of the expenditure in terms of energy expenditure. And please keep playing golf because it keeps your mind away from the actual tennis and it helps you to relax. So 2 things that all of a sudden to the public eye went like, no, this is the problem, to all of a sudden, now, please keep this because he's keeping you happy. I went to see Canelo sparring in San Diego. That man, before doing 12 rounds of boxing, he went and played 18 holes. It's just before after of golf. Me from the outside talking to Eddie Reynoso, and I'm thinking, obviously as a coach, you know, like everyone got, oh, this guy's nuts. How would you let your fighter to go and play 18 holes before? Like 2 weeks, I think it was like 2.5 weeks before the Caleb Plant fight. I go, this is nuts. No, it works for him.
Yeah.
So that as a coach is your job to understand your fighter. And thank God I do understand my fighters.
That's like the man management style that sort of we touched on. Like people just thinking, oh, it's by this book, but every person's different. Like you just touched on.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Speaking of the AJ Usyk fight, I know you can't give much away. There's starting to become a lot of talk about it again now that sort of Usyk has confirmed it. Is there anything, and I know you probably can't say much, is there anything you can tell us about when it might be? Or we're looking this summer maybe?
To be honest, it's like my work is just coaching. I don't
come
really...
on, Angel.
I swear, obviously it's gonna happen. You know, it's gonna happen. Guarantee it's gonna happen. You know, I mean, they left Ukraine. Everyone knows that. They're preparing for the camp. Now it's just looking at the day. You know, I don't think there is like a specific day so far, but in all honesty, listen, honey, my heart, I do exactly the same with Richard, and I just leave that to the management. You know, like my job is coaching. I love coaching, and I try not to get into people's toes. You know, when they go, listen, this is the date. It's my job to go. Cool. This is how, you know, we're gonna approach the whole camp, which that's already done anyway. But you know, we're just waiting on the specific day, and it will be the best AJ.
Well, we won't keep you too much longer, but we have to ask you as well. April 23rd, there's a big fight, which I'm sure you'll be keeping a close eye on for future reference. How do you think that's going to go? What do you reckon, Fury White?
Obviously, it's a good fight for British public. You know, don't underestimate Dylan White because you just don't know how he's going to approach the fight. Maybe they bring different tactics, but Tyson Fury, with the momentum that he has, you know, I see him becoming victorious on that fight.
Do you think it's a good idea, Dylan, not because people were saying like Dylan's best chance might have been sort of getting in Fury's head, you know, getting under his skin or whatever, but he's went the opposite route. I suppose it's a mind game in its own way. It might actually play in his advantage. But what would you advise if you were the coach in that position? Would you advise to do the press conferences and stuff, or just to avoid it?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, they probably, like, as a team, they probably discuss this, maybe because, you know, Tyson Fury maybe like to get into people's head, and maybe it's a way, I think that probably maybe is a good thing in terms of like keeping Dillian White against, like, away from kind of like, you know, that sort of energy of Tyson Fury, you know, maybe trying to get hit under his skin, and maybe he just kept Dillian White more focused in the job that he needed to do, you know. So that is maybe a question that you have to ask the team. I don't tend to kind of like comment on other
keep
fight.
your cards close to your chest, Angel.
Yeah.
Well, Angel, thanks a million for coming on, mate. Really, really appreciate it. You've given us more of your time. I told you this would last 10 minutes. And that's the only reason you agreed to it. Angel, thanks. I didn't really appreciate you coming on, mate.
Absolutely.
Thanks for your time.
I appreciate your time, Jens. And
Good
keep
man.
the podcast up.
Good man.
We'll do it again soon.
Dad likes to call that life, but I'd like to call that white girl problem. Met her back in autumn. Every gift I try to get her, she already got them. Messing with the TA, wonder what she taught him. Work her way down, literally to the bottom. Where are all my best friends? How can I ignore them? Never gonna text them, I am too important.